Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the big board. We're looking at Vietnam 65 to 75 GMT games. It's the Nick Carp, I believe is his name. Re-release second edition from GMT. Rules have been cleaned up. Errata's been incorporated. New maps, new counter art, new map art as well. Nice. Where are they? Where is my chart? Here. Nice workflow, operations flow charts that are really useful if you just want to look through step by step to make sure you're doing things right, because the rules are clear and relatively concise, but there are still things that you're going to need to reference. And I think usually I don't like these flow charts because there's always something missing and you've got to go to the rule book anyway, so you might as well just go to the rule book, right? But nevertheless, I think that these charts have been pretty invaluable so far for what I will call now my second playthrough, given that I did a dry run using the example of play in the scenario book. So here's the thing. Some folks have been commenting there weren't a lot of videos about the game, and I'm sure that people who are far more into this than I probably will be will dig in and do a lot of tutorials and stuff like that. And this is not a tutorial so much as it's just an overview of some of the action for the very first scenario with Operation Starlite. And there are some things that I found out that are important after having a chat with Ralph Shelton to verify that what I was doing was indeed correct, or generally correct anyway. Well, let's use that as a benchmark. So artillery is either allocated by, well, there are various types. So there's dedicated, independent, and some other type as well, divisional arty. And so this is regimental arty, this guy here, so he can only be allocated to support units with the same blue box, right? So that battalion. He cannot support any sort of attack by these guys, which are from the 3rd Marine. It makes perfect sense, right? Now, that's just a oversight on my part when I got started with the scenario. The scenario starts out with 2 units, 1 regiment of VC and 1 political section. So you move into the political section's hex and it gets flipped over. You go to do combat and you're done. It's dead and off it goes. These guys, however, will take a little bit of a beating to finish off. So I, based on where the VC moved, I decided it would be convenient to move the 1st Marine 37th Battalion to go take them out. Now, in hindsight, because I did that, this guy was then done. He was ops complete, so he is not going to be able to participate in any more combat, and nor am I going to be able to use this chap's capabilities either. Or either, depending on how you'd like to say that. So what I should have done was taken one of the battalions from 3rd Marine, either the 3-3 or the 2-4, and waltz them over to that political section's hex, let them have their little experience, and go from there. In the example of play, they knowingly, I think, send this 1 unit off to attack the political section. It goes there. They don't take any air support. They don't do any interdiction with the naval units. So not very realistic. It's assuming that you know what the enemy is, right? Or which of the 2 units is which. One's nasty, one's not nasty. And so they sent the chaps off. They knocked this guy out, and they were done. In the example, in my gameplay, I literally shuffled these guys around and then put them down, moved them, didn't look at them until I put the unit on top. So I sent some air with these guys, and they did their thing and killed that unit, and this guy ended up being stuck over here. So what we needed to do, though, was to use this guy. And I'll tell you why. Because as it stands, when we came in to attack with all of this stuff, to attack this unit, which I think ended up here, we attacked from, I don't know, let's just say we attacked from this location. I can't use the 8 factors here. Let me zoom in. I can't use these eight factors to support the operation, the target hex here, right? Because there's no command linkage between those two divisions. So I'm shortchanging myself. I've got the 7 artillery here. If I use this formation, this cruiser, I can use it, and I can use the 4 air points, or 2 air points, because I used 2. Excuse me, used 2 over there. And that's something I need to check whether those air points are available for the turn or per operation. I am not 100% clear on how we allocate that exactly. I know that we can reuse what has been allocated. I just don't know if I can say, oh, well, gee, now I want 4 instead of 2. So I need to double check that. So like I said, this is not a tutorial, it's just a discussion running through the gameplay that I went through. So I moved into this hex. We attacked. These guys had an opportunity to execute an alert, which means that they would be allowed to roll a die and then attempt to move away. But basically, because of the scenario restrictions, they really didn't get very far, or they moved and they only got to here, and we moved to here and in pursuit and attacked them. Inflicted some losses, took a loss, lost an air mobilization point, because we only had 6 combat factors going in against 6, so we're at 1-to-1. Then we had to add. Then we added the arty in and the air in, and it was only getting us up to like a 3-to-2 attack. So not a lot of fun, and both sides were taking losses fairly aggressively. And you can use up replacement points instead of having to, flip this guy over and reduce him, right? Actually, no, that's not correct. That's not, you don't do that. You don't flip this guy over. He's a 1-step unit. I'll deal with this flipped over unit in another video without getting complicated. So we attacked. Once we attacked, these guys were able to retreat their full movement, and I then garner pursuit points. So I'll have +3. And then I'll also get whatever the combat results table gives me. So this, where do we go? Let me just zoom out a little bit. Here we go. Pursuit allowance. I'll receive some points here, movement points, based on the odds that the result that I get, and anything I don't use in the attack, and this is where I got a little confused. I had a chat with Rolf and got squared away. These guys retreated to here. Actually, I moved to here. So using one of my pursuit movement points, that left me with basically 5. So when I attacked here again, I was able to add +5 to the die roll. I was doing what ended up being a 2-to-1 attack in this particular instance. That gave me a +2, so it was a +7 on the die roll. On a 1d6, that was going to give me, what did I say? A 7, and I rolled probably a 2, so I got a 9 or a 10 thereabouts for the die roll, and that was giving me some nice results and allowed me. It took 3 attacks though, and I took some losses. Now, the flip side of that is if you look at the example, and so we killed this unit and then won the scenario, but the flip side of that is, having done it the other way, if I had gone here, killed that unit wherever it ended up, over here somewhere, killed that unit with this guy, created a second operation, used both of these guys. Now I can use both of these artillery units. So now I've got 15 factors divided by 2 because it's not a free fire zone. But I've got 15 factors plus my 6. Now we're talking, right? Now I'm fighting against that 6-rated unit, which will end up being an 8 because of its artillery factors. And we're on a different column to resolve the combat. And life is a lot better for everybody, for the Americans. In any case, let me mute my phone. because usually once I get one instant message, I get a dozen. So even though there's only one turn in this little scenario, there are many different ways that you can experience testing out the combat tables, testing out how air and naval and artillery support the gameplay and the tactics, and whether or not you want to alert and try and retreat, things of that nature. So you'll have some nice exposure to the gameplay. So I really got a lot out of this. I'm actually going to reset it and replay it again. We'll do a random allocation of the units, and we'll get after it from there. And I'm going to play this another time, and then we'll do one of the other scenarios. And then I'm hoping by then that GBOH, Great Battles of History Caesar, will arrive, and I'm going to put that on the table. If I don't put Combat Veteran from the World at War or Modern War magazine number 31 on the table. That's the game plan. And then later on we'll cycle back to this, and we'll play a full map scenario, full one map scenario with a lot more counters, and we'll get into the peeling back the onion on the operational aspects of the game, and when to use clear and secure, when to use search and destroy, when to use patrol and hold, and things of that nature, and try and understand a little bit more about some of the nuances of this very unique asymmetric conflict. So really, really good system. It's great to get reconnected with it. I had not touched this thing in over 20 years. You know, I played it way back in the day, back in probably the 80s is when I played this with the old version, and only a couple of little scenarios we goofed around with things and started a larger scenario, then stopped because it was other things came along. All right, anyway, talk to you soon. Roll some dice this weekend. Have a great weekend. Ciao.